Well, hello everybody, welcome back down into the dungeon gardens. Got a few things that I've fiddled with over the last week, so there are some actual changes to show you. Some of them I think might even actually turn out to be positive changes, so that would be really nice. You know what, I guess we'll start under the Sansi lights and just kind of work our way around the room. That does leave the aquaponic garden in the middle with its funky light for now, but well, at least they gave you advance warning. So yeah, let's check out what's going on underneath those Sansi bulbs. Happy little solar bear is just rocking away. You may know, I should have had some coffee before this. You may notice he's moving a little on the faster side today, and that is because I finally got around to switching the bulbs. I've now got the 40 watt on the left and the 15 on the right. We'll get to that in a second. Just got some kind of decorative things going on in the back here. And then, a couple of days ago, like quite recently, I transplanted, so this is some of the parsley out of the aquaponic garden. I've been meaning to put it into soil for a while. Hopefully it will recover from this. Plants don't generally enjoy the transfer from hydroponic or aquaponic into soil, but yeah, pampered enough they can survive. This is kind of a change for up here. It's one of the trays that was under the PVC LED lights. As you can see, the peppers seem to be okay with their new location. Unfortunately, got a glitch in the electronics with that DIY shelf light I had going there, and it wasn't working for me. So I had to find a new spot to move these. So I figured, yeah, I'd finally get around to switching the 40 over, adding a little bit more space. We're going to try putting these wide variety of peppers. I think there might even still be a few kale in here. Yeah, that's a kale, and there's a kale back there. And hopefully we'll get some better growth out of this, because light intensity really does seem to make a big difference. Now over here we've got the mini DWC garden. Interesting note about this has inspired me to actually spend the money, and I just today hit click to purchase an AeroGarden and one of those, I think it's an AeroGarden Harvest, and one of its seed starting trays with like 31 different positions. This is interesting. I don't think I like how it's working out for the peppers. It's only just been a couple of days with the new 40 watt bulb, or the new 15 I should say, overhead, but the kale is definitely, this is working out. Like, got this one here. The other one I put back in here with this one ended up dying off, so I've got this one in here as a replacement. I'm gonna slowly start working these peppers out and putting them into hopefully larger DWC systems. I'll show you the one with the Caribbean Red Habanero in a few minutes here, but I think I'm gonna use this for my kales, because that seems to work, and maybe I'll try some lettuces, some other leafy green type things, and it seems to work for that. And if it's willing to work for that, I'm willing to let it work for that. You'll notice I twisted it. It was sideways before. Now it's a lot easier to just kind of grab the handle and say, hey man, take a look at those roots, and it's much easier to do just that and take a look at them. They seem to be doing fairly well. I just recently had to top the water level up so that this newest kale could have water at the bottom of it again. So I took a minute and drew a little line with my Sharpie marker there. At least now I know where full is. That touches the bottom of the cups. And if I have to put something new in there, well, fill it no farther than that. And actually I probably should make the basic fill line maybe even half an inch down from there once roots have developed, just to make sure these guys stay dry and the air roots are just air roots. But that's all, you know, down the road kind of experimental stuff. Got the pitcher plant here. I don't think this is getting quite enough light now that I've rearranged the 15 and the 40, but kind of recently tucked it back up to the top of the shelf there. We'll see how it does. I've got this one 11 watt. It kind of shines down on it. Not sure. It's really doing the trick though, but isn't this a tragedy? This served me well, and I'm not quite sure what its problem is. I'm going to do a little troubleshooting, see if I can fix it. If not, well, for 25 bucks, I got my $25 usage out of it. It definitely helped me with a lot of plants. But here we are, moving on over to the Darwin table. This is the oregano, also from the aquaponic garden. Clearly not doing very well, but there is some green on here still. So I have transplanted it under the hopes that it can come back to life. It look at least as good as that does. We've got one of the random compost peppers. Not looking too bad, not looking too bad. Yahi Fantasy back here. This was a little wilty when I came down earlier today, and I sprayed it and then was going to paintbrush the aphids off of it, but it doesn't work in that order. You got to do it the other way around. Got the Yahi Guyana back here. Now seems kind of bright back there, doesn't it? I got 2 more clippy lamps with 17-watt LEDs in there, adding a bit more brightness to the back half of the Darwin table at least, because this is where our other little mini garden tray ended up. I do have some extra room in here, so I am very hopeful for new things to sprout. A couple more kale that I'm going to end up putting into that mini WC or DWC. Some spider plants, I don't know why they're in there, I just thought it was cute at the time. And there are getting to be a few of these that I think it might actually be time to move these into a larger double cup, just so they can have a little bit more room for root growth and expansion. And then I've kind of tightened up the flaming caddies over here, because I noticed when I put in these extra clip lamps, I got a lot more light spillage over there, so might as well take use of it for house plants. Keep spinning around. This is going to be a long clip. And we're under the crazy light of that Mars Hydro. Oh, excuse me. I have recently put the bloom switch on as well, so it is using the full power. But I don't have a kilowatt, so I don't know what its actual full power usage is. But I figure if the tomatoes are going to try and produce, I should give them as much light as I possibly can. So, let's look at what we've got here. Got that sage cutting from quite some time ago. It's filling out quite nicely. I am looking forward to a more direct up and down light situation with this in the future, but that's a future issue. I moved the tricolor sage over to where the oregano was, and it already seems to be growing a little bit to me. It looks much happier, getting water on a regular basis. What plant isn't happier that way? Oh, and then we've got the parsley. This one, not looking thrilled, but the drain seems to be working on this. The hose seems to be working, so I spread everything back out again, and I'm hoping that these plants will recover. I'm also hoping that the ones in the soil will recover, but we'll see. And that left these 2 spots empty, so I've just got the tomatoes sitting in them for now. Of the tomatoes, yeah, I've got kind of a nice little tomato forming there, very hard little thing. The leaves not looking terribly happy, but they only get watered occasionally because they're not actually in the garden. They're just kind of sitting in the garden. Then this indigo rose, it's got another little tomato here. I think I might actually just clip the rest of this stem off and let it focus on that. See what comes of it. At the same time, I'm also kind of thinking about planting the indigo rose into the garden. I'm a little worried about that because the tomato roots get kind of crazy, could easily cause blockage in here. And I had a couple of tomatoes in here already. They didn't do much, but get kind of scraggly. But you know, this one's already trying, and I do love them indigo rose tomatoes. So I might do something about that. Then back here we've got the Fields O Mint. This is actually 3 separate buckets growing here, but it kind of looks like one giant plant along the back. Thinking very seriously about pulling one or more of these plants out of the system entirely and trying to plant it into some soil, just a regular container planter. Send it off to live with Fuzzy. He has recently taken some plants up to his new place, so anything I can do to encourage more greenery there, I'm gonna do. And mint smells nice, so always good to have in the house. See if we can pan down to the fish. Get all that glare on the surface. Just realizing it's been almost a full year since I've had these guys. And we've only had the 1 loss, so that to me is really impressive. But really can't see them all that well with the glare from the Mars light. It was mentioned to me back when we got them that a lot of the black spots would disappear, which, as we can see here, has happened. Peaches has maintained a nice pale coloring there. That's the one you see swimming off to the back. It looks almost white. And the two black ones, what was it, Average Joe and John Doe, I believe were the suggested names for them. They've kept their black fairly well. And then there's the one in the back there, kind of a little spotted fish. Kind of looks like a kuhaku if it were a koi or something. It's kept its definitive markings well. But otherwise, yeah, we've got various shades of gold and orange going on here, so it's not quite as entertaining of a tank as it used to be. But really, it's more about what they can do for the water than how they look. So, yes. I guess that just leaves the big fluorescent on the other side of the dungeon here. Which, you know, starting with these buckets doesn't look great. I got some tap water here, and then this here was tap water. These have both been sitting for about 2 days before I did anything with them. Then I grabbed the sponge off the pump, like the filter sponge off the pump, and just kind of squeezed it in there because it gets built up with bacteria and filth and all kinds of stuff. And I figure, why not try and use that to do like a bacterial seeding in the soil for my plants here, and maybe in the water for that DWC. While we're here, let's take a look at this. It's a 4-gallon bucket, not quite 5 gallons. Got the one little tiny air stone in there. And this plant seems to be doing alright. Some nice looking roots in there. Lots of water going on. Lots of color in that water. Lots of air in that water. Starting to get some spreading here, and it doesn't really look like there are too many aphids on this little guy, so I am pretty pleased about that. In the back there we've got the Sugar Rush Cream just hanging in there. MOA Scotch Bonnet. Okay, now Sir Graham, I think you were asking about the mason jars. Are these the mason jars you were wondering about? Because that's all canning stuff that was here when we got here, and I haven't been brave enough to open it and dispose of it yet. So if that's what you were wondering about, that's what that is. Down here, what is this? This would be the El Oro de Ecuador, just barely hanging on to life. Hopefully it can make it through to go back outside for one more season. The mouse melon, that is looking fantastic. I found some tendrils that were trying to climb their way over, so I tucked them back in, and a couple that were hanging down, so I tucked them back in, but getting kind of a nice green tower effect going on there. Pretty pleased about that. Then down here we've got the little trough of spider plants. That's coming along just great. No real signs of life in these raspberry cuttings yet. The yellow scorpion there looks like it's about to completely pack it in. Houseplant multi-planting there seems to be hanging on. I'd like to get another light set up over here so I can get, you know, just brighter light for it, but that lemon tree is doing surprisingly well. Those two coffee trees there doing surprisingly well. And then the Dieffenbachia along the back, well, yeah, I'm amazed they're even alive. Looks like my camera has decided to not focus, so there's not much point in discussing that. Let's see, can I get a focus on this little tree? This is the one surviving little evergreen. Out of the 3 that I put in there, this one seems to have made it. So that's kind of cute. And I guess that leaves us with this bucket of hawthorn berries, which all still seem pretty flexible, all look like they've got little leaf nubs on them. So I think we're going to be good to go planting some of those in the berry patch this spring. It's going to be a very interesting and exciting year, I think. I do. And that about wraps it up for what's growing on down here in the basement. I didn't show you really any signs of life in what we planted last week because, well, it's 21-day, you know, germination cycle for most hot peppers, and it's only been 7, so there's nothing popping up yet. But I am hopeful in the coming weeks we will get to see some more pepper varieties popping up there, and I am really excited for just the number of varieties I've got already going this year. It's going to be a really, really interesting year. Plus, you know, as I was saying last week, I put some planning into it. I found a bunch of short season crops. And those all arrived in the mail. I have to say though, 200 corn seeds sounds like more than it looks like. So when we take a look at that, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's not going to be for a while yet. Anywho, thank you all for sticking around with me as I suffer through the winter and extend my growing season however I possibly can. And I look forward to starting things outside again in a couple of months. It is starting to warm up, but we still have a long way to go before I get to planting outside. So stick around, enjoy the adventure. I know I enjoy the exchanges and interactions with you down in the comments. And yeah, I will see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.